money. The money. The money, SpongeBob. It was the money. The money. That school's very expensive.
So what led to our decision to come to St. Kitts? I think that's a loaded question, and there's a lot to that answer. I think you might have to, for us, I think you go all the way back to 2011, 2012, where Emily and I discovered the show Caribbean Life. You know, I think at that point there was this inkling of an idea, or maybe this far out dream of what it would be like to live on a Caribbean island. And at that point it was just a dream, but it seemed like a really cool dream and something maybe worth going after at some point. And what a cool show. If you haven't seen it, look up Caribbean Life. You're welcome. In 2013, Emily worked as a vet tech. And I guess, you know, maybe a year before that, she had worked at an animal grooming business. And I think that got her involved with animals more, and it sparked this ongoing love that she had for animals.
I've always clicked well with animals. I got them. They were easier than people. I don't know, maybe it was just the introvert in me. Like, I just loved animals. I grew up in a rural area with a lot of horses, cows, dogs, rabbits, cats everywhere. And the idea of a veterinarian was like the childhood, like what they ask you in kindergarten. What do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a veterinarian. But then I felt like at one point when I was a child, I found out how much schooling was involved to become a veterinarian. And I think at that point I had somehow established that I wasn't the book smart type of person that could do vet school. Like I wasn't smart enough. That much school, I'm not really down for it. And so I just kind of buried that.
I think at that point, I think she had a lot of limiting beliefs, where I think she had put that dream to the side and said, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm inadequate. I can't become a veterinarian. I've missed my chance. How many of us have those limiting beliefs in our lives, right?
Then fast forward to, I think it was 2013, when Troy and I were living in Vegas, and I got my first job as a veterinary technician. And I fell in love. And I remember coming home, and after, you know, a few days working, I was just like, I could do this for the rest of my life. But I kept working as a technician, and the more that I learned, the more I was just excited to take it further. I wanted to be the one diagnosing, prescribing, doing the surgeries.
She worked with these veterinarians that instilled this desire, or inspired her to continue to pursue this dream that she had of becoming a veterinarian.
The people around me, the mentors, the veterinarians at that time, were just so encouraging and instilled such a love for education. So it was tough because I left my undergrad in GPA in kind of disarray because I didn't have a point to the school, right? Troy and I had a lot of tough conversations of just like, okay, what does it take to get into vet school, and can we do this? Can I pull this off?
Emily decided in 2014, 2015 to go back to school.
And it took, I don't know, a lot of work, a lot of stress. But I actually, when I went back to my undergrad with this vision in mind of becoming a veterinarian, my perspective of education just had transformed, and I just fell in love with academia and my degree, which was biology, and my undergrad turned into just a beautiful experience. I did it at Utah Valley University.
She was so persistent and diligent, and she has so much grit to where she was able to completely improve her GPA in really difficult classes as well. But in 2018, she graduated and had raised her GPA significantly. At that point, we thought she was a shoo-in to the Washington State WeMove program. Sadly, we found out that she was #1 on the wait list, but they ended up not admitting her. And I think we had been accepted to Ross at that point, but we decided, well, if she was #1 on the wait list, let's go ahead and apply again.
While doing my undergrad, veterinary schools came and kind of introduced us to their program, promoting it, and Ross was one of those vet schools. And we had already established this hope or dream that someday Troy and I would live on a Caribbean island, kind of wishing that we wouldn't have to wait till we were like, you know, retired or found some like remote type job where we could make it work. And so when I heard about this veterinary program where we could live in the Caribbean and get the degree that I wanted, we were pretty excited. Now when I applied, I was accepted. And then the other part of our decision to go to Ross was partly out of desperation. Let's just be real, because getting into veterinary school is very difficult. A lot of people, when either I say, oh, I'm applying for vet school, or I'm in vet school, or I'm going to be a veterinarian, they're like, oh, you must love animals, which is true. Love them. They're great. But a huge part of veterinary medicine, for me, a huge concept is actually seeing an animal that's either sick or injured, and that animal may or may not, but most often in the companion animal medicine that I was working in, is a cherished member of the family or this client that brought them in. And as a veterinarian, or as the technician, of course, I could be the one to help fix them, to help make them healthy and happy. And the kind of fulfillment that I get from that is just, it's wonderful. But I'm grateful that we did come here, and it has been a good vet program.
It was the summer of 2018. After she had graduated, we found out that we were pregnant. Emily went through 60 hours of labor and 5 hours of pushing to deliver our adorable son, Owen. And what a joy he is to our life. We're so happy to have him. And it made the idea of staying in the States a lot more easy and more palatable with having a new child. So, round 2 of applications, Emily did get accepted into Ross again, or that was deferred, but she didn't get accepted into the WeMoo program. And we thought long and hard about this decision. What do we want to do? And at that point, I think a perfect marriage between this growing dream that we had of, wow, that would be cool to live on a Caribbean island, and for her dream to become a veterinarian. She had come this far, she'd worked so hard, and it just wouldn't be right for her to stop at that goal at that point. And we said, okay, let's go ahead and figure out how we can make this work with our family and with our 2 dogs. What were our biggest concerns about coming to St. Kitts? Probably our #1 concern was, how are we going to safely get our 2 brachiocephalic dogs to the island? Airlines had restricted them from flying as cargo or in the cabin.
Leaving them was not an option for me. I know some students do, which is totally fine and it's up to them, but I couldn't stomach that.
We looked into what it would cost to buy a boat. I think we didn't know all of the information. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So that, affected what our options were. But at the time I was working in California and we needed to get to St. Kitts. And eventually we found the option of Amerijet, which would fly our dogs as cargo safely, or at least we hoped it was gonna be safe, to the island. But they only flew out of Miami.
Then there's also this concern of just like, okay, I'm going to start this doctorate program and I have a 5-month baby at this time. Right now too, I'm breastfeeding him. He doesn't really like formula and I'm producing fine. So how can I maintain this child, and balance being a mom, but then also being a graduate student.
Is he going to be safe? Are we going to be able to take care of him? I would need to be a stay-at-home dad while Emily would go to school. And how are we going to make this work? I also still wanted to be able to work back in the States so that I could make enough money for us to live on an island without accumulating so much debt.
What do we pack? Because we've got this growing child that's going to go from being 5 months old to potentially 2.5, almost 3 years old while being on this island. And how much can I order and take with me? Because I knew shipping stuff to the island was really tricky and expensive. So just thinking ahead, planning ahead, and then there's school supplies. It was just a lot. What are we going to store for 2.5 years at my parents' place? What do we need for this summer in California before we leave for St. Kitts? What are we going to leave in Arizona at Troy's mom's place on our way to Florida? And then what are we going to just bring to St. Kitts? And how many bags is that? How many more bags do we need? And then also just moving to the island, I've got my baby, I've got my dogs, I've got my husband. Is it safe? Like, this is a developing country where I've never been before.
Any other concerns? I think those are the main ones.
The money. The money. The money, SpongeBob. It was the money. The money. That school is very expensive.
Yeah.
To this day, feel a lot of weight on my shoulders because I have moved my entire family here based on my dream of becoming a veterinarian, and I have accrued a lot of vet school debt, and this better work. I don't really know how to
No, that's good. Interject different things. So, Harold.
Of a tight situation trying to get our Emily and myself and to get